All right, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of the world famous Prospect Avenue podcast, your definitive source for everything Buffalo Sabres prospects. I'm your host, Chris Baker, here in the bunker in lovely Hamburg, New York. It is March 2025. We are in crunch time here for Sabres prospects. Conference tournaments in the NCAA have already gotten underway. We're working our way towards that 16-team field being announced for the NCAA Men's Division I Ice Hockey Championship, and hopefully a few Sabres prospects can work their way into some exposure at the Frozen Four. We have the final 2 weeks of the CHL regular seasons underway and a lot of action there to talk about with some Sabres prospects playing Major Junior up north. And we're already seeing some playoff action start over in Europe. So we have a lot of ground to get to today. But before we begin, as always, if you could please like this video, subscribe to the Sabres Prospects YouTube channel. You can find the Prospect Avenue podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you would be so kind to leave a 5-star review. All right. I say it every episode, and I really mean it this week. We do have a lot of ground to cover. So let's just jump right in here. We have seen a bit of a changing of the guard in the past month or so at the top of the leaderboard in terms of Sabres prospects points per game. And that seems like a prudent place to start because there's been a couple Sabres prospects that have been running hot of late, but none no hotter than UConn sophomore winger Jake Richard. Richard went on quite a run here to wrap up his regular season in Hockey East for the number 8 UConn Huskies. That run that really began in that final weekend of January saw him rip off a 10-game point streak, including goals in his final 5 regular season games. If you look at just that month of February, Richard racked up 13 points in 7 February games. That was tied for 4th most in all of NCAA D1 hockey. But in total, in that 10-game point streak, he was really running hot. Like I said, he had 9 goals and 9 assists in those final 10 games, and he's going to enter the Hockey East tournament as one of the hottest players in the nation, no doubt. That hot finish boosted Richard's season totals to 15 goals and 20 assists through 29 games. So Richard, you got to remember too, he missed 5 games in the first half of the season, basically missed that entire month of November with an upper body injury. He's going to enter the postseason 5th in Hockey East with a 1.21 points per game average. And like I mentioned, he is currently pacing all Sabres prospects with those 1.21 points per game. So Richard, not the tallest guy, he's over 6 foot, but he's got a big, wide body. And when he's really gotten his game going, he's getting a lot of pucks to the net. If you go back a couple of weeks ago when he recorded a career best 3 assists in a February 7th loss, a 5-4 loss to UMass, he had 8 shots on goal that night on 9 total attempts. 8 of those 9 shots came at even strength. 2 weeks later, he kept firing again. He had the second of his 3 2-goal games including the OT winner in a 3-2 win over Maine. And he got off 7 shots on goal in that game. So clearly has a nose for the net. We saw it back when he was playing in the United States Hockey League Junior A before entering Stores as a freshman at UConn. But he's often found screening the goaltender. He likes to tip pucks. He's one of those guys. He's really good beneath the goal line. He likes to operate within that 10-foot radius of the paint. His skating, I've mentioned it before on Prospect Avenue. It's continued to improve. You know, once he gets going, he gets through the 3 zones with a lot of speed. But where we've seen the improvements in his fundamentals is with his first 2 or 3 steps. His acceleration has definitely gotten more explosive since becoming a collegiate player. So when you look at everything here, it's all pointing to him being a very exciting player next season in what'll be his 3rd collegiate year. But first, the Huskies still have business to take care of this season. They have the Hockey East tournament to get through. They will be in that 16-team field for the NCAA tournament, no doubt about it. But the Huskies right now, they're going to be the number 4 seed in the Hockey East tournament, and they're going to face Providence in the first Hockey East quarterfinal game on Friday night. So really good to see Jake Richard humming along here in his 2nd season, catching fire late in the year, and hopefully he can carry that through. Big time goal scorer, like I said, developing. It's been a real fun situation to watch once he got back from that first half injury. We're going to keep going here because just like Richard has been hot, so has Noah Ostlund been really running hot down on the farm in Rochester. It's been on an absolute tear as the Amerks top centerman in that Americans lineup. Had the injury woes early in the season, but everything's behind him now. He just had 1 goal and 1 assist in his first 14 games this season. Now he's found his comfort zone at the AHL level, and he's picked up 10 goals and 21 points in his last 21 games. So again, that injury is long in the rearview mirror, and he's really worked his way into a situation where he's getting the most out of his game and getting some really good quality minutes at the AHL level this season as a rookie. So I mentioned the 10 goals and 21 points in his last 21 games. 6 of those games have been multiple point efforts for Ostlund. And he just on Saturday saw his season high 4-game goal streak end. So Richard had a 5-game goal streak. Ostlund at the same time was overlapping that with a 4-game goal streak. Again, really good situation here for a player that plays fast. He's playing direct. He shows a really high level of confidence out there on the ice as well. Ostlund's a guy that knows he can be a difference maker. And when you watch his game and his positional game and just how he works around the defensive zone and transitions to offense, this is a guy who really understands the North American game. He had that injury. He attacked the weight room really hard, and now he's getting the results here now that he's healthy. Really agile playmaker, really smart off the puck, like I mentioned. And also, like I mentioned previously, on Prospect Avenue, whether it was, earlier this season or last season, he's really become a lethal shooter as well. He came into the season, I think, a shade over 170 pounds. I think he's listed right now at 171. I like to think he needs to get into that, 183, 185 range to be really effective against NHL level competition. But needless to say, as he continues to add some strength and some mass to that frame of his, he's doing some great things. One of the more compelling things, too, about this little hot streak that Ostlund's been on is that he's had a steady wingman throughout almost the entire 21-game journey. Isak Rosén, he's been really stapled to Ostlund at even strength. And Rosén, by the way, he's ramped up his play with 12 goals and 22 total points in 19 of those games prior to being recalled to Buffalo when Rosén joined the team in Florida. So it really hasn't mattered who they put on the other side of Rosén on that line. They mixed in Anton Wahlberg for a handful of games. Lucas Rusak's been up there, Brett Murray, Riley Fiedler-Schultz. It just hasn't mattered. Ostlund and Rosén, they're really clicking, and it's something to watch as these two continue their journeys together in the Sabres organization. These two have been a key factor to the Amerks firming up their presence as a top team in the AHL, and it's going to be fun to watch them continue to build their resumes together in the Sabres org. So a couple other news and notes while we're here talking about Rochester. Wanted to mention Viktor Neuchev. He's out for the season after undergoing shoulder surgery last week. If you go back to maybe like December of last season during the World Junior time, that's when Neuchev really started to ramp up his game after kind of a quick acclimation to coming over to North America in his first year here. And he's been a really good player since. Got off to another nice start this year. Neuchev was racking up some primary assists and was really starting to emerge. And then his game kind of stalled a little bit. Now he's got the injury, so you hope that he can bounce back in short order. Another player that I want to mention down in Rochester, we do have to talk about Ryan Johnson, because Johnson went over 100 games deep into his professional career without a goal. And then back in late February, finally got one on the board, a play that starts with a nice defensive stop, and then he follows the play up ice. And you can see it there if you're watching on YouTube, gets the puck just inside the blue line on the left side and lets a shot go to get his first. That one had to feel good. Johnson's been taking a lot of shots on goal this year. You can tell he was hungry to get that first goal. And then he did just that there. I think it was February 22nd. Then he had a game where he didn't get a goal. And then he came back just 2 games later and made a really nice move at the top of the blue line, little juke, get some space, let a shot go for another goal. So he had 2 goals in 3 games. So Johnson is on the score sheet now officially with 2 goals in his professional career. Lastly, while we're talking Rochester, we might as well mention Olivier Nadeau. He's been spending most of his season down with the Jacksonville Icemen in the ECHL. We're talking about goal streaks. Richard had one. Ostlund had one. Nadeau right now is running hot with a 6-game goal streak down at the ECHL level. And a lot of them, as you can imagine, just like he did in the queue. They're coming with his stick on the ice right around the net, doing well in the power play, but he's also popped a few in at even strength. Let's go over to Finland here and talk a little bit about a player whose rights are going to expire here. His signing rights, they expire on June 1st. And I think the Sabres actually might make a move and bring this player in. And that, of course, is TPS Turku centerman Viljami Marjala. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to most, but I do feel like the Sabres are going to get him an ELC offer and get him over here to North America next season. Marjala has continued to produce this season at a point per game with 51 points in 51 games. Again, he's running the top even strength line. He's running the power play on the left side there for TPS Turku, and he's racking up the assists this season. We've mentioned his playmaking ability in the past. It's just that he's a premier playmaker in European professional hockey. He's presently tied for 5th in Liga with 43 assists in those 51 games. 18 of his helpers have come, like I mentioned, on the left side of that TPS power play. But really, I think what makes me feel that the Sabres are going to look to bring him in and add to their center depth down in Rochester next season is that he's demonstrated growth in all of the other important areas of the game, primarily his compete level. He's overall just a more competitive player, and he has a really good pace of play. So when you look at the great hands and vision that he has, and now these other puzzle pieces are coming together, the compete level's there. He plays with an NHL urgency to his game, getting to the net more. I can see the Sabres getting him over here next season. So it's going to be really curious to see where his game will go truly after the season, but that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. So if you go back and you look at, this was a player, he was in the QMJHL in this draft year, spent 2 years playing for the Quebec Remparts. And then a couple of years ago, he went back over to Finland to continue his development, shredded the under 20 junior ranks in his first year back, got a call up to TPS and Liga late in the year, totally showed that he belonged at that level. And then last season, he comes out, he wins Liga's Rookie of the Year with 17 goals and 23 assists in 60 games. So he hit that 40-point mark last year. This year, he's already eclipsed his point total from last season. And it's worth noting, by the way, he had the 17 goals last year. His goal scoring is actually down this year. He only has 8. So he's down by about half. He's currently on a 16-game goalless drought, and he has just 1 in his last 21 games since the calendar flipped into 2025. But, maybe he can get it back here. The TPS Turku has just 3 games left in the regular season. Right now, they're clinging to the final playoff spot in Liga, and they're going to need him to get it going again. He had 9 points in 9 playoff games last year. He is such a dangerous weapon when he's got the puck on his stick. So hopefully he can pop a few in here, get the confidence going again, see if they can win a playoff series or 2 in Liga before, hopping over to North America. I mean, of course, it's not a done deal yet, but we do think he'll be in Rochester for next season. That's just kind of where I'm at right now. So more to come on Marjala, but I did want to mention him racking up the assists like crazy this year, just really good with the puck on a stick. So I'll be eager to see if they can get him in. All right. Marjala out of the way. Let's go over to the NCAA next and just talk about a couple prospects that have been doing pretty well this year. Want to highlight a couple right-handed defensemen and talk a little bit about Stiven Sardarian as well. But let's talk about the right-handed defenseman first. And we're going to go to Michigan State and talk about right-handed defenseman Maxim Strbak, because he's been that all situations defensive anchor this season for the number 2 ranked Michigan State Spartans. Strbak really ramped up his offensive side with 2 goals and 8 points in his final 10 games of the regular season. He's averaging over 20 minutes a game, 20 minutes and 20 seconds, in fact, is his average time on ice this season for Michigan State. So the Spartans are going to continue to rely upon him more heavily as the pressure kind of ratchets up here and the Spartans take a serious run as a legitimate contender for the national title. Michigan State will face Notre Dame on Saturday in a Big Ten tournament single elimination semifinal contest, expecting Strbak to log some big minutes in that one. Also, while we're here in college, wanted to mention another right-handed defenseman. That's Boston University's Gavin McCarthy. He's a sophomore this year. McCarthy ended the Hockey East regular season as the conference leader with 69 blocked shots. So he plays on that top pair at even strength with Cole Hudson. Hudson's a guy very offensive, and you have that defensive-minded guy playing opposite him in McCarthy. Those 69 block shots, by the way, first in Hockey East, also ranked 10th nationally. So McCarthy, it's implied, obviously, he's on the top pair. He plays big minutes. He logged an average of 22 minutes and 21 seconds time on ice per game this season. And the number 10 Terriers are going to host a Hockey East quarterfinal game on Saturday against a yet-to-be-determined opponent. The first couple of games will be played on Wednesday, and the outcome of those games midweek will determine who the Terriers get in the Hockey East tournament. We're going to keep rolling here in the NCAA ranks, and we got to give a quick update on third-year forward Stiven Sardarian, who played up at Michigan Tech this season, had a very good year, but he saw his season come to an end on Saturday as the Huskies were swept by Bowling Green in their CCHA Mason Cup quarterfinal series. Sardarian had a nice start to the year, scored 10 goals in his first 22 games, but then he found himself in a 10-game goal drought before getting back on the board here with a goal, an important goal, in game one of the series on Friday. Sardarian did have 6 assists during that 10-game goalless spell, but that goal slump was definitely not due to a lack of effort by any means. I mean, he had a combined 11 shots on goal the weekend prior on 19 total shot attempts in the final regular season set when Michigan Tech was swept by St. Thomas. So Sardarian now completes his third collegiate season as Michigan Tech's leading scorer with 11 goals and 35 points in 35 games. So a point per game player, really nice development this season. He's a player I think the Sabres should eventually sign. I feel it'd be proper to have him return to college for another year, though. It's kind of hard to predict what they're going to do with him. High skill, really, really, really good passer of the puck. But I do think that there's some value in getting him to stay back for his senior season, play that leading role, add more strength, and simply just keep evolving his game. You know, I know that there's the potential there for Sardarian to go the free agent route, but I think he'll see some opportunity in Buffalo. I believe that he has a good relationship with the Sabres development staff, and I don't want to be too concerned about bringing him in early to avoid the potential for him to go to free agency. I think you got to bank on your relationship there and do what's best for his game. And in my opinion, it would be going back for another year, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here in the next couple of weeks and see if the Sabres maybe don't take my advice and bring him in. That's very well possible. While we're here talking college, we should talk about a player that's going to enter the NCAA ranks next year, and that is Youngstown defenseman Luke Osburn. Osburn really took his game to the next level following his appearance for Team USA at the World Junior A Challenge in December. And let's just kind of throw some clips of Osburn up so you can kind of get an idea of what he looks like out there wearing number 13 in white here on the current video that's playing. But yeah, Osburn got the nod to play for Team USA at the World Junior A Challenge. And he just came back, went on a nice run through the middle of February, saw him amass 17 points over a 14-game stretch upon returning from that tournament. He since cooled a little bit, but look, he's committed to Wisconsin next year. And he's been overall just excellent this season from start to finish, uses his mobility in all 3 zones. He's got a nice offensive layer that he brings to the attack. Really good running the Youngstown power play this season. And I don't look, it's hard to forecast transfer portal movement and just see activity with the transfer portal. But right now, I think Osburn should be walking into a pretty nice situation when he joins a relatively young defensive group next season in Madison. He's the only defenseman in the 2025 recruiting class for the Badgers. And look, they've had a tough season. And I know I'm a little biased talking about Wisconsin hockey because my niece plays for the women's program there, but I truly do believe that Coach Mike Hastings has a plan and you can see it coming to fruition. He's definitely got that program moving in a good direction despite the tough season that they had this year. They're moving, like I said, I think the Hastings is going to really get some good recruiting class coming in the next couple of seasons and return that program to a top 10, top 12 program in the country in short order. So eager to see what Hastings does there and eager to see how quickly Osburn can adapt to the NCAA ranks in the Big Ten next season. All right, man, we are cruising along here 20 minutes in, and we only have a couple more prospects that I want to cover this week. And of course, you know that it would not be an episode of Prospect Avenue without an update on our pal Prokhor Poltapov over playing for CSKA in the Continental Hockey League. Poltapov has multiple point efforts in 3 of his last 5 games, 8 total points in that span of 5 games, and CSKA's won 6 of their last 7 to make a move up the KHL Western Conference standings. So now this little stretch here of production for Poltapov gives him 16 goals on the year. He places second on the team with 39 points, but more importantly, he's got his game firing at a high level at the right time. There's only a handful of games left in the KHL regular season. I think they have 5 left after playing earlier today, picking up a 4-3 win over Avtomobilist. And he had 2 goals and an assist in that game, by the way. So firing at the right time. This is a guy, he's shown that he can be a valuable playoff asset in his younger seasons here for CSKA. If you go back and look at what he did 2 years ago in their run to the Gagarin Cup, had a nice playoff year last year. So he's stepping up. His game's getting hot at the right time. This is a guy, he starts hot and he seems to end hot. And look, Poltapov right now, his ice time is up. He had a career best 18 minutes and 57 seconds of work in a game back on February 19th against Dynamo Moscow. He had over 18 and a half minutes again last week in a game. And a large part to this increase on ice time is the fact that he's now on PP1 for CSKA. We never saw Poltapov getting power play minutes, but he's been a regular on the PP units there since right before Christmas time this year. So they've had some injuries. They've had some action at the trade deadline, and Poltapov's been a guy that has just been, from start to finish this season, probably their most reliable player. He's been super consistent. And I get a lot of questions about Poltapov. You know, can he play top 6? Can he do this when he gets over here? I mean, look, we'll see. Still has 2 years left to go on his KHL contract with the extension that he signed there earlier this season. But when you can forecheck the way he does, and you have the strength on the puck and just the dogged work ethic that he has, you know, he's got some really nice skill. That's a pretty compelling package. And honestly, he's a guy that can play anywhere in the lineup. Honestly, I think he's probably going to be a middle 6 guy and have some PP and PK roles ahead of him when he does come to North America. But man, and look, chemistry is going to matter too. I think chemistry with your line mates will always matter, and we'll see where it goes. But just his whole work ethic is really impressive. And it's really nice to see him now knocking on the door of having his first 40-point campaign as a professional. So good on Poltapov to keep producing here, and really curious to see what he can do in the playoffs. All right, we got a couple other names that we want to get to this week, and then we're going to get out of here. Let's go to the OHL. Let's go to Major Junior here. Let's talk some goaltenders. And I think it's been a tale of 2 seasons, to say the least, for Brantford Bulldogs goaltender Ryerson Leenders, in a good way. Since the calendar flipped to 2025, Leenders has escaped that firm goalie rotation that existed for the Brantford Bulldogs in the first half of the year. He's emerged as the undisputed go-to guy as the Bulldogs have surged to the top of the OHL's Eastern Conference standings. If you go to just February, Leenders was super impressive in the month, going 9-1-1, had a .921 save percentage in those 11 starts. He made 35 plus stops in 4 of those games, including a 43 save performance and a 10-1 thrashing of Niagara. So in February, Leenders was the OHL's goaltender in the month. Really good to see. Nice reward for his excellent play. As a whole, if you go back to January 1st, Leenders has won 19 of his last 24 starts. He's seen an average of 33 shots in those 24 games since January 1. He's allowed fewer than 3 goals per start on average, and he's had a rock solid .915 save percentage in those 24 starts, again, going back to January 1. So he's a guy, he's seeing the puck into his body. His confidence is soaring. It's exactly what you want to see from a young goaltender who's developing. So good on Leenders, because earlier in the season, he had the trade from Brampton to Brantford, was learning a new team, didn't get off to the hottest start. He was kind of uneven, and has really gotten it going. And he's emerged as one of the best goaltenders in all of junior hockey, really, in the past couple of months here. Let's talk about his fellow goaltender in the CHL. Let's go out west and talk about Seattle Thunderbirds netminder Scott Ratzlaff. Kind of the same trajectory this season that Leenders was on. Kind of a slower start, had the disappointment of not making Team Canada, but Ratzlaff's really gotten his game in order in the 2025 section of the calendar. When you go and just look at his past 11 starts, Ratzlaff's allowed 3 or fewer goals in all 11 of those starts. He picked up his first shutout along the way, and he also has a sparkling .946 save percentage in his last 11 games. He's faced over 40 shots in 5 of those 11 starts. So Leenders and Brantford in the OHL, they're locked in already to playoff position. They're currently first in their conference, and it's just a matter of locking up, the number 1 seed there for them. If you look at Seattle right now, they're kind of at the other end of the spectrum. They're currently holding down the 8th and final playoff spot in the WHL's Western Conference. They have 6 regular games left, and it's going to be, this one might go down to the final game or 2 here. So we'll see. It would be really good for Ratzlaff's development to get him in some playoff action. He didn't make the playoffs last year with Seattle. They were the odd team out. They finished 9th in the conference. Right now, they have a 3-point lead on that, their next closest chaser. So if they can rip off a few wins here in their next couple of games, and we'll expect Ratzlaff to be shouldering the load in net during this stretch, hopefully it gets them some breathing room and they can lock up that final playoff spot. One player, let's go back to the OHL, because there is a player that's kind of trending in a not so great direction lately, and that's Kingston Frontenac's winger, Ethan Miedema, big 6'4", 200+ pound winger. Started the year really well. Kingston's having a good season. Miedema's getting some featured minutes really all year, but he has just a goal in 2 of his last 22 games. He has just 2 assists in his last 12 games. And on top of that, he's failed to record a shot on goal in 8 of those last 22 games. So something's going on there with Miedema. Again, he's still playing the minutes. And I've talked a lot about Miedema needing to get more shots on goal. If you talk about these prospects, you want to see them progressing and get their games going and really start firing in that January, February, March timeframe. Miedema's gone in a complete opposite direction. So a little concerning there. Miedema's another player, kind of like Marjala that we talked about earlier. His rights expire this season. And, all throughout the year, I've been just kind of thinking, okay, if you can project this big body to get a little more snarl and play a powerful game as he keeps developing, you have to kind of project this and forecast this, then maybe he's a guy you can consider signing. Right now, I think Miedema is going to be evaluated against other free agents at the junior level and undrafted free agents at the NCAA level to see, he's going to be in that pool of players that they'll consider. They could always give him, an AHL contract as well. But right now, not encouraging, just seeing the lack of production and just kind of, more consistency, more of an edge from him night to night. So we'll see where it goes here with Miedema down the stretch with just less than 3 months left with the Sabres holding his signing rights. And then last but not least, should probably mention Joel Ratkovic-Berndtsson, because I did mention him, I think, on the last episode of Prospect Avenue. At that time, Ratkovic-Berndtsson was playing in Sweden's 3rd division, and he was just kind of tearing it up. He had .46 goals per game, 16 goals in 28 games for Västervik in the 3rd division. And openly, I think I wondered if he could latch on with a Hockey Allsvenskens team next season. And actually, he did just that. At the end of the season for Västervik, really shortly after the episode, Ratkovic-Berndtsson signed on with Tingsryd in Hockey Allsvenskan to finish the season there. Tingsryd, last place team in Hockey Allsvenskan. So I think, they kind of wanted to just bring a breath of fresh air, maybe give Ratkovic-Berndtsson a tryout for next season. But we'll see what he does with it. He's played less than 10 games right now. He's not getting a ton of minutes there, but be good to see him finish strong. I mean, all things considered, this was a guy who came into the year, didn't even have a place to play. Kristianstad lost their license and didn't play in hockey yet in this year. He had to scramble, didn't latch on with Västervik until, midway through the first half, and just got his game going right away. Just really took the bull by the horns and created some good outcomes for himself. So good to see. Late round pick, total lottery ticket, but hey, we cover it all here on Prospect Avenue, and I wanted to give another shout out to Joel Ratkovic-Berndtsson. That's it. 30-minute mark has come. I just covered a lot of ground, talked really fast. My face hurts, but we're going to end it here. On your way out, again, if you could please like this video, subscribe to the channel. It helps the show. It helps the channel. And we'll be back soon. Give it some updates on what's going on in crunch time here as the Sabres prospects get ready for the CHL playoffs and work their way into their collegiate playoffs as well. I'm Chris Baker. Thanks for stopping by Prospect Avenue, and we'll see you again next time.